Alright everyone, welcome back. So we're going to continue on here in our 2024 second round previews with a battle between two Canadian teams, the Edmonton Oilers and the Vancouver Canucks. I am, for one, very excited for this series. I said it when Edmonton moved on and Vancouver was playing Nashville that I really wanted to see these two teams face off, and we are fortunate enough to get it today. Let's just get straight into it. These are two teams that Vancouver wasn't really expected to be where they are currently. And Edmonton, on a level you would have thought, they shouldn't be second in the division. What the heck are we doing? So, the Canucks finished with a 50-23-9 record for 109 points. They were 6th in the NHL, and they beat the Predators in 6 games. So, I'll be making a series review soon on the Canucks versus Predators series. Hopefully before Vancouver-Edmonton starts. I want to start getting those out. I think I got like 3 to make. So stay tuned for those. But regardless, I think the Canucks definitely played in a very low-scoring, highly competitive, and what some may call boring series. But regardless, they beat the Predators in 6 in a series where not a lot of people took them. I took Nashville, honestly. I kind of thought that Nashville was going to win this game. Or win this series. I did, but I was wrong. You move to the other side, you get the Oilers, who had a very solid regular season outside of that 2-9 start, and they've turned it around for the better. They went 49-27-6 for 104 points. They were 9th in the NHL. They beat the Kings in 5 games. So, I think that series was honestly very lopsided. It could have very well been a sweep had it not been for that overtime win by LA. But regardless, the Oilers got the win, and they're moving on now to play Vancouver. So this could be a very close series, as I said. These are two teams that I really like, have really enjoyed. I think this could be a very tight 7-game series if it goes that way. You got your power play percentage. Vancouver is 22.7%, which is ranked 11th. The Oilers have a 26.3%, which is ranked 4th. So 100%, you look at the power plays, they're both very good. Edmonton's obviously is better. When you have top-end talent like McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, and Bouchard, obviously your team's going to be insane on the power play. But regardless, it demonstrates that, the penalty killing needs to be good. And for both of these teams, this is the interesting part. Their penalty kill isn't bad, but it's not awesome either. Vancouver's is 79.1, which is 17th. Edmonton's is 79.5, which is 15th. Now, Edmonton's penalty kill is actually 100% in the playoffs because LA did not score on a single power play. So that is something to keep in mind there when you're looking at that in terms of just how overall the playoffs have been for the Oilers. They didn't let the Kings score at all in the power play. So Vancouver, I'm almost certain that will be broken. I think Vancouver will at least score 1 on the power play. I think that's just without a doubt. But regardless, I think that for sure that could be a deciding factor on who wins this series. The power play and penalty kill could be a big thing. So in terms of individual scores, we'll start with the Vancouver end. You got JT Miller. Miller with 37 goals, 66 assists for 103 points. He had 6 points in the playoffs. Was much more of a passer in the playoffs, it felt like. Didn't really take as many shots as we've seen him do. Obviously, only had 1 goal, so I definitely think that for sure Miller had a solid first round regardless. I think, though, that he might need to score some more if they're going to beat the Oilers, 100%. They're playing a very highly scoring team who can definitely put a number up on him, could put up 6 or 7, maybe even 8 goals in a playoff game. Because when you have a goalie like Artur Shilov's in net, there's a good possibility when you're playing one of the better offensive teams, that could very well happen. Quinn Hughes, second in scoring with 17 goals, 75 assists for 92 points. In the regular season, had 5 assists in the playoffs. Quinn Hughes, great defensive maneuver, a Norris finalist, should 100%, be in that conversation and had a really good first-round series. Elias Pettersson, third in scoring with 34 goals, 55 assists for 89 points. He had 3 assists in the playoffs overall. So I thought Pettersson had a really good playoffs as well. I think, though, that if they're going to be able to obviously beat the Oilers, Pettersson needs to get on the board. Pettersson and Miller need to score. That's the biggest thing. They need their top guys to show up, which I understand that this team is new to this. They obviously have not made the playoffs with this roster that often, so it's not a surprise that obviously some of the guys might struggle. But regardless, if they're going to win, they need to show up. That's the biggest thing. You got Besser, 4th in scoring, 40 goals, 33 assists for 73 points in the regular season. He had 6 points in the playoffs. I've said in previous Canuck videos that I think Besser has been an awesome player. I definitely think that he's had an awesome career year, and I think that in the playoffs, too, he can be effective as well. And then you also have Filip Hronek here for Vancouver, who's 5th in scoring with 5 goals, 43 assists for 48 points. He's had no points in the playoffs. Hronek's like the Taste and the Makar. He's that defensive guy for Vancouver who covers up a lot of Quinn Hughes. I think Quinn Hughes isn't bad defensively. I'm not saying that, but Hronek's more defensive than Quinn is offensive. That's definitely a better way to compare it there. So definitely a solid defensive defenseman. As for the Oilers, they have a lot more top-end talent when you just look at the overall points. I think both of these teams definitely have top-end talent. I think the Oilers do have more than them, though. You got Connor McDavid with 32 goals, 100 assists for 132 points. He had 17 points in the playoffs. 17 points, 12 points in the playoffs. Not 17. He's not that crazy. But I think McDavid, again, had a really good year in the regular season. I think if Vancouver, and this is the biggest thing, if Vancouver's going to win this series, they need to shut down McDavid. That's the biggest thing. You see in series before, Colorado shut down McDavid. Vegas shut down McDavid. You need to shut down Connor McDavid if you're going to win this series. That is the biggest thing, without a doubt. Other guys, Leon Draisaitl, you got to shut him down too. 41 goals, 65 assists for 106 points. He had 10 points in the playoffs. Draisaitl, we've seen in previous playoff years, especially against LA, he can just turn it on and go. He can turn it on and win a series. That is 100% that Draisaitl can do. He can score in a crazy amount of points too. So it's not out of the question there if we're going to see that happen. So I would not be surprised. But regardless, yeah, Draisaitl, got to watch out for if you're Vancouver. Evan Bouchard. Bouchard had a really good year offensively. 18 goals, 64 assists for 82 points in the regular season. He had 9 points in the playoffs. So Bouchard is a guy that you could talk about his defensive numbers. He obviously was not a Norris finalist, so that plays a factor there too. But I really do like overall Bouchard's offensive numbers. I think that he's a good passer. Obviously, he gives the puck to McDavid, and that results in a goal immediately. But regardless, Bouchard, probably the best defenseman on this team at this point. Zach Hyman. Hyman with 59 goals, 23 assists for 79 points, or 77 points. He had 8 points in the playoffs. So I think that Hyman had an awesome offensive season. Awesome, spectacular. Scored even more in the playoffs. He's the guy to watch out for too, because we see McDavid, he's kind of referring a little bit more to passing. With Hyman, the thing is that he's been scoring a lot more than he's been passing. That's kind of the thing we've noticed when it comes to the Oilers. That's something you got to keep in mind there, obviously. And then Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Hopkins 5th in scoring with 18 goals, 49 assists for 67 points. He has 6 points in the playoffs this year. So, Nuge isn't that guy that we saw last year. I said that in a couple other videos. But regardless, he is a player who, when the playoffs come, he can perform. That's the biggest thing you want to keep in mind there. Other guys for the Oilers that I think you got to keep in mind, Evander Kane. I know there's criticism about Kane and him being not a great player in the regular season. He has his moments in the playoffs too, but I think he can score the on and off goal. Adam Henrique, deadline acquisition, a good bottom 6 center, middle 6 type center. Could be a guy that could fit in well there. And then Warren Fogle gives effort every game, works hard. One of my favorite players on this team for sure. 100%. Guys for Vancouver, you got Dakota Joshua, who is like the best secondary scorer in the world, can score you the on and off goal all the time. He clutched up against Nashville in Game 1 of that first round series, so he's someone to look out for here if you're Edmonton. Elias Lindholm, deadline acquisition, played well, scored. He scored the OT winner in Game 4. That's what he scored. I was saying he's going to score Game 6. That was P.S. Sutter. And then Connor Garland. Garland can score you that on-and-off clutch playoff goal. Obviously, though, this is Garland's first year in the playoffs, so he's very inexperienced, like a lot of players on this Canucks team are. In goal, you got Artur Shilovs is the projected starter. Now, if Demko comes back, that's a different story. But if DeSmith comes back, it's obviously a different story, too. But they're both hurt right now. So, if Demko comes back in, like, Game 4 or Game 5, or Smith comes back soon, yeah, this won't be inaccurate, but this is the biggest weakness for Vancouver right now. I understand that Shilovs had a really good playoffs, but I think it's the biggest weakness right now for the Canucks. Shilovs' stats are 3-0-1 in the regular season, a 2.47 goals against average, and a .881. In the playoffs, he has a 2-1, a 1.7, and a .938. So So he's had good playoff experience, but that's 3 games of playoffs right there. It's a little inexperienced. And with Nashville, I'm not saying they're a bad team, but they don't have a lot of offensive talent. That's the biggest thing. So when you look at that, you got to say, well, Edmonton has McDavid, Edmonton has Draisaitl, Edmonton has Hyman, Edmonton has Bouchard. They have guys that can score. So that's the biggest worry there with Vancouver is the goaltending. But then again, you could say that for Edmonton too. You could. You really could. You got Stuart Skinner, 36, 16, and 5, a 2.62 and a .905. I think Skinner has been good. And he had a 4-1, a 2.59, and a .910 in the playoffs. But the issue is that in previous years, he's been the issue. That's the biggest problem. Now, the comparison between last year and this year is that Skinner started off the playoffs bad. He's been good so far. So I think that, and I said this last year. I said that you give Skinner a couple of years to get there, develop, and I think he can be that goalie. I think he is now. I think he has to be. But obviously there's those people who will say, oh, he's not that. He's not like that. And yes, am I a little bit on him? Yes, I am. I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be that guy. No, I'm not, because there's obviously been plenty of years before where goalies will sell in the playoffs. You just look at other years, like Georgiev in Game 1 of this year. You look at Cam Talbot and David Riddick. Even though they played well at points, they still kind of sold. You look in other years, too. There's goalies that have sold, like Ilya Samsonov. So there's arguments you can make there. And Skinner, last year, arguably did sell them against Vegas. But the issue is that I think Skinner has more experience under his belt, and he's ready. So in terms of who I think is going to win this series and move on to the Western Conference Finals, I got to take Oilers. I feel like, yes, Edmonton has more offensive power. Vancouver has better defense overall. But I think that when it's going to come down to it, could be goaltending. It very well could be, because I think Skinner, even though he's young as well, and Silovs is also young too, Skinner has more experience. That's the biggest thing. But I do think the Canucks will put up a good fight. If Demko was here, I think this does go 7. But I think the Oilers do go in 6. Because I think the Canucks will take 2. I think that it's going to be a lot of high scoring, because these teams can score. These teams are teams that 100% can score plenty of goals in a game. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see the first game, it's like 7-5. It wouldn't surprise me at all if that's the first game. But regardless, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know your predictions. But regardless, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.